over. Okay, so just to set some expectations, I will go for 40 to 45 minutes. Okay, I'll talk about it. Just quickly, it's covering some material to, provoke you, if I can use that word, And hopefully there are questions, a lot of questions that you ask. Comments are also welcome, but I would say we will get most out of it if you stick yourself to questions. Okay, just in a limited time that we have together. And what I mean by question is, usually the question starts, now I'm doing this for many years now, okay, since 1993 for that matter. And the things don't change no matter what I say, but maybe you prove as an exception, which is this. When you ask a question, instead of giving a big background why you're asking that question, just jump into the question. And it typically starts with when, what, where, why, how, etc. And if I need something more, I'll ask you. Okay, so then we can cover as many questions as we can. So 40-45 minutes, and then we'll get into questions and answers. So just a title, you need some title. If there is a talk, you need a title. Okay, so history of Hindu civilization. Don't get stuck on any word. I mean, if sometimes people, oh, Hindu, well, is that old? Use Indian, use Bharatiya, doesn't matter. As long as you understand which civilization we are talking about, we are just fine. And then the archaeo-astronomy part, and I'll show a small demonstration of it, okay? And that's all it can be done. But then number of you who are curious, and hopefully I make each one of you curious, that you get to it. There are many blogs, many YouTube videos, books, and hopefully you decide to learn more about it at your own pace. Okay? All right. So let's go to the next slide. All right, so everyone, Hindu civilization or Indian civilization, everyone talks in their own way, and that's perfectly fine. We have a different aspects of it. The specific aspect I'm going to mention today is how we can use the science. Now, as soon as we say the word science, a lot of discussion may begin. But the science that we understand in a typical sense, the science of Newton and Einstein and Galileo and whatnot, okay? Doesn't have to limit it to cosmology. You can go to the medical science, and I have some slides on that too. And then, if you look at the Indian philosophy, now you hear the word philosophy, you don't think science. But Indian word for philosophy that is used is darshana. We have Shad Darshana. Some of you would have heard that word, okay? And if you get into those Shad Darshanas, what you will find is it's nothing but, Shad Darshana is of course a lot more, but it provides you the basis for modern science. What I'm showing you there is essentially that. At the top, if you have a problem, you propose a solution. When you propose a solution, I'll give you a simple example. So, Earth is at the center or Sun is at the center. If that's the problem, you're trying to figure it out, and we want to understand how the planets move and why they move. Someone may say, well, Earth is at the center. Now that is a solution. Someone may say, Sun is at the center, and that is a solution. As soon as you propose a solution, that is a theory. That is at the top, that number one there. I don't know if you can read, especially people in the back, but the first star at the top. Then you have that triangle, and it reads explanation, prediction, testing, or it reads pratyaksha, anumana, upamana, shabda, pramanani. The pramanani word is not there. This is Gautama's Nyaya Darshan. Okay, the Tarka Siddhanta. No difference. How many of you have heard the name Sir Karl Popper from London School of Economics? No one? That's good. I can bluff whatever I want to do. Okay. Now, he's known as the greatest philosopher of science in the Western world. Okay, passed away in 1994. What he proposed is exactly this. He calls it a triangle or a triad of explanation, prediction, testing in the context of a theory and in the context of a background knowledge. Do you know what is the word for a background knowledge in Indian philosophy? You can take a guess or read from the slide. It's agama. Okay, it's a established knowledge, realized knowledge, that is agama, the background knowledge. Go next. Now many times what happens is when we hear something, like for example, I'm sure, although even if I tell you, please don't ask me any question about the Yuga. Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga. I'm sure at least 2-3 people will ask the question, but I'll just mention it. But what happens? People say as if they know everything about the Yuga. But you know what? Many times they have heard something. That's it. They have heard something from somewhere. Maybe Wikipedia, maybe Google, maybe some provision. That's it. But you know, on that next chart, where it is simply a information, padadnyan, a statement that they have heard and they have internalized and they think that is the truth. But what Gautama's Nyaya Darshan is telling us is that just hearing something is just the beginning. It's not the end. It's at the bottom. So from Padadnyan, you have to go to Shabdabodh. We understand the meaning of that sentence. Then you go through up, all the way until a Pratyaksha-jnana. Sakshatkar. You heard the word Sakshatkar? And suddenly we think something magical. Well, in a way it is a magical, but it is like you realizing it for yourself. That aha moment, eureka moment. That is a Sakshatkar. Okay, next.
When you say Gautama, it is Rishi Gautama.
Very good. Chakshupad, Anvishiki, science of Anvishiki. And how old it is, we will come back to that, by the way. Okay? So, in science, there are many elements. I'm going to take two elements and place it here, and I'm going to ask every one of you. So pay attention, because I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, which category you fall into. Okay? So if you take this axis of evidence, everyone understands evidence? Okay, some kind of evidence, facts, right? We call by different names. If I put this as a vertical axis, go next. At one side, I may call it all the relevant evidence, which is to say, did you look at all the evidence before making your judgment? Or are you looking at just one piece of evidence and just running away with the answer? The second end is a arbitrary or selective evidence. That is what many people end up doing. They have heard one thing and they just run away with that answer. Go next. So the second axis is the axis of testability. Next. Yeah, you can complete this little bit. One more. Yeah, thanks. So the second axis is the axis of testability, which is to say, can you test it objectively? What does objective testing means? I'll give you an example. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Objective testing is when you test something and you don't have an. I think objective testing is when you test something and you don't apply your own opinion to it. You do it, from the whole world's perspective, not just from your perspective.
Very good. Okay. Yeah. And so still there can be a disagreement. But let me ask you, and again we can have a disagreement. That's fine. What color T-shirt I'm wearing?
Navy blue.
Navy blue, blue. At least we can agree on the blue. In general, okay, that's what I mean by objective testing. If someone starts saying it's yellow, okay, then we need to take a pause, so to say. So that's that testability. Is it possible to test? What we are saying is, if we can test it objectively, it is scientific. So I want you to understand that science is extremely powerful, but it is also limited. Okay? And the other side is called metaphysical or atarkya. Now, when we hear metaphysical, do you know, it doesn't mean it's false. Now, many times that's how people understand. Oh, that's metaphysical. It doesn't mean it's false. It can be true, it may not be true, but scientifically speaking, we haven't found a way to objectively show the proof for it. Do you follow? Okay. Let's go fill the four corners of it. So if you just use those two things, the whole entire gamut of possible opinions, possible assertions, possible claims fall into these four. Look at the top, the preservation of tradition. What are these people doing? They are not interested in scientifically testing it, but they want to preserve everything they can. Like many of our people, they have what they have done. No return, but they try to preserve everything they can to the best of their abilities. Sometime by memorizing it, sometime by writing it, yeah, and so on. So that's a great stuff. Now they didn't test it. Go to the next one, dharmic assertions. What is that person doing there? He or she is looking at all the evidence and they are scientifically testing every single piece of evidence. That's like dharmic assertions, truthful assertions, bold assertions, whatever you want to call it. And the bottom, so let's look at the tamasic skepticism. Are you familiar with these people? They are looking at something that cannot be tested scientifically, and but therefore it's metaphysical. And it's not everything. They just look at that one piece of evidence and they say, well, prove it to me. Unless you can prove it to me, I cannot believe in the rest of the story. Okay? And then there is a fourth category, which is they look at the selective evidence. Now they do find a way to scientifically test it, but they have not looked at all the evidence. Okay? And I call those superficial and manipulative claims. Now forget the names for a minute. But when you ask a question, and we may bring this slide back, and I will ask you, where do you stand here, and where do you ask the question? Okay? Alright, next. Yeah, you can go through the whole thing. And I'll show you quickly, for example, yeah, go ahead. In case of Mahabharata, just go back one. In case of Mahabharata, like I'm going to briefly touch on the timing of Mahabharata. And what you'll find is, I'm not the only one who has come up with the date for Mahabharata war. There are more than 130 different researchers, individuals who have come up with those many different dates. So naturally, you should have a question. Why should we believe you? Just because, I have got you hostage here, for next 40 minutes. We are going to go back to this chart. You can take all those claims and split them into those different categories and look where they fall. Now somewhere you have to trust my word, you can always challenge it, but just take that as a baseline and go back and do more. Majority of them fall into these superficial and manipulative claims, which is to say they have looked at some evidence, but not all. Many times it's a selective evidence, many times it's arbitrary evidence, and they have quickly, prematurely jumped to the conclusion. Okay? Alright, next. Okay, so I'm going to go through 3-4 slides and give you a very broad outline, and then show one demonstration of archaeoastronomy, and we'll stop. How old is our Indian civilization, Hindu civilization? What is your guess? I mean, raise your hand, I'll come to you, and then you spit out the number. How old is it? Based on your opinion, based on whatever you know. How many of you want to participate? Just raise your hand. Okay? Very, very good. Okay, so we'll start here in the front.
10,000.
10,000 years? Who raised hand here? Yeah, how many years?
10,000.
10,000.
10,000.
10,000?
About 27-ish.
About 27,000.
Yes.
Very good. Okay.
30,000.
30,000.
About 50.
50,000.
58. 15.
15,000.
Yeah.
Very good.
8 to 10,000.
8,000.
5,000.
5,000. 5,000. 5,000. 30,000. Okay. So, yeah, go ahead.
When the universe started.
When the universe started. Okay. So, done. I'm done my job. Okay, we got everything. Okay. So we'll look at, now see, the civilization, any one of these answers could be true. Some of them are definitely false. We'll look at those. But we can only going to go here as far as the evidence takes us. And by evidence, I mean objectively testable evidence. That is not to say that the civilization was not there before that, but I cannot stand here and claim it. You shouldn't go somewhere and talk about it because you make a joke of yourself. Okay? Not that you are saying wrong thing. Okay? But there is a lot of things that are against us. Okay? So you have to be careful. Okay, go next. So the timeline I'm presenting here, I know it's not difficult, easy to read, I'll read it for you. So that's the future, that's like going in the future. Everyone can read today, the last word from the left, it says today there. I don't have a pointer. So where I am here, on this side, my side, the last number that it reads there, it reads 70,000 BCE, and it says Grand Saraswati. Now let me explain what happened there. Somewhere between 90,000 BC to 70,000 BC, the Grand Saraswati of Rigveda that we hear, okay, started flowing. That is what the geological evidence tells us. Okay? Now some things may be there before that, but anyone wanting to claim, say, Rigveda, the current Samvita of Rigveda, what is it called? Shakal Samvita. If anyone wants to claim the current Shakal Samvita of Rigveda is more than 70,000 years old, immediately I will ask that person, now show me where is the Saraswati. Now he or she may be able to dig more and able to show it. I am not denying that possibility. But as far as the evidence is concerned, that is the limit we have. Everyone follows? So we cannot go before 70,000 BC. I am not saying, yes?
I just want to clarify the Saraswati. what is Saraswati? Some people may not be aware.
Okay.
And the Rig Veda.
Right. So I'm going to come here back, but Saraswati, I'm not referring to the, of course it's the same thing, one and the same thing, but I'm not referring to Saraswati, the deity with the veena. It came from that, they're together, okay? I'm talking of the river Saraswati, which no longer exists in terms of water flowing through it, but through the satellite mapping and many other techniques, you can actually find its path, okay? And some places, the path was as wide as 20 kilometers. Other places, the shortest most of the time is 11 kilometers. It was that big. And if you have been to Varanasi, you have seen Ganga, and it's nowhere close to that in terms of its width. Okay? Alright. So start from 70,000 BC here. Then the next date, now since you cannot read it, I'll read it quickly. 50,000 BCE. That's the next date I can read from here. And what the geological evidence tells us is that approximately that is the time, or sometime after that, Yamuna, river Yamuna, which used to feed Saraswati, separated from Saraswati and started flowing eastward and made Ganga. Sometime after 50,000 BCE. You follow? Okay. The next one, the third number from here, it reads 22,000 BCE. Again, this is the data from more than 100 plus different research publications, not my research work, I simply collated it, okay, from all around the world. Researchers from all around the world, not just Indian researchers or anything like this. The third number is 22,000 BCE. This is very important. What the geological data shows us is that sometime around 22,000 BCE, that is what? More than 24,000 years ago. Everyone understands the BCE and CE? So over 2,000 years that we talk right now, CE or AD you might hear, plus we're going backwards, 22,000. So we are looking at 24,000. That is when the Grand Saraswati, river Grand Saraswati, stopped being grand. It still continued to flow, but it was no longer Grand Saraswati by any definition, whatever the definition that is used. Okay. Then let's go further to the our times. Now I don't know if you can read the next number, the bluish mark. They both are blue, pointing upwards. 12,209 BCE. Now that is based on my research work. I'm going to give you a quick summary. The date, the year for the Ram-Ravan Yuddha, essentially Ramayana. 12,209 BCE. If you go further to the, what direction is that? To the right of yours. Then another bullet that you see, that reads 5,561 BCE. Okay, that again my work, but some of you, how many of you have heard the name Dr. P.V. Vartak? Or some of you might have, okay? So P.V. Vartak came up with, long time before me, okay? So 1980s, the year 5561 BC for the year of Mahabharata war. Then I spent 15 years trying to falsify him, trying to show that maybe he's not right. Okay, and then I said, no, he is right. Okay, so that's 5561 BCE. And then there is something else, that slight yellow up thing there. It reads Epoch of Veda Shakha Pravachan. So what happened? Something happened around the Mahabharata time to the Vedas. Anyone knows that? Yes.
They were basically classified into the 4 Vedas.
Very good. Very good, okay? They were edited, recasted, re-edited, something like this. Anyone knows who did that? Vedas. Okay. Okay, so something happened there. Until, anyone familiar with the lean methodology? Our modern business, lean enterprise, lean engineering, right? The couple of words we use, push versus pull. Okay, those of you who don't understand, just bear with me. So, push versus pull. Okay, buffet is a good example. Everyone knows buffet, right? Going to the buffet? Yeah? Yeah. What is that? That is not a push, that is a pull. You go around, you decide which one, what you want. They have prepared it, you decide what you want. Until the time of Mahabharata, the Vedic knowledge was basically done in that fashion, pull. If I am building a temple, I will go to some guru who is expert in Sthapatya Shastra. I will learn from him or her. It was a pull basis. But Vedas thought the time has come, he could predict us, those many 7,500 years ago. He said, you know, the time has come that people in the future will not read much. Okay? So he said, you know, or won't have their own motivation to learn stuff, you know. So he said there should be some force feeding, you know, SAT. You know? The exam is coming, so you know you have to prepare. Force feeding. So he separated that, and that little bit of a blip that you see, epoch of Veda Shaka Pravachan, is all the Brahmanas. Not all, but many of the Brahmanas. Brahmanas, not in the sense of a Brahman, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Shudra. That the texts are called Brahmanas, okay? Brahman text, which is in the context of a Samhita of the Vedas. Then there is a Upanishad, everyone has heard that word, and Aranyakas, and so on. They were written during that time. I mean, the knowledge existed, but they were composed, or sometimes just like edited and written in those forms. The Suktas existed. Okay, and then after that, I have one more thing. It says Aryan invasion, migration, and there is asterisk, which says discredited now. Okay, in the question answer session, we'll come back to that. And that's the overall timeline. So just to summarize, we have evidence that can possibly go up to 70,000 BC. Now, I didn't give you any evidence, but you know what I'm talking specifically? How many of you have heard of Toba explosion? Toba, T-O-B-A? No. In the island of Indonesia, okay, there was a huge volcanic eruption 75,000 years ago. And the entire India and even the broader area was covered with meters layer of ash, burning ash. And most of the civilization was wiped out. But what is interesting is, how many of you are here from Andhra Pradesh? Okay, Jwalapuram, have you heard Jwalapuram? No? Kurnool district, you know, okay. And my last name Oak, you know, although we settled for many generations in Maharashtra, we are originally from Andhra Pradesh, okay, Auk. There is a place just south of Jwalapuram, south of Kurnool called Auk, O-W-K, and that's where we came from. So that place has got layers of ash. What is interesting is there are stone tools, other things have not been found, but there are stone tools below the ash layer, very sophisticated stone tools, and thousands of them. And there are stone tools, sophisticated stone tools above the ash layer. What does that tell you?
They survived.
They survived, and there were people there before 75,000 BC, there were people immediately after 75,000 BC. Okay, I'm not immediately saying those were the one who wrote Veda, nothing like that. But there were people, there was a habitation, there was something going on there. Okay, so we start from there. What it tells us, if you look at the oldest mandalas of Rigveda, the Rigveda that we have, 6-3, there are Rigveda's 10 mandalas. 6-3, 7, 4, 2, these are the oldest mandalas of Rigveda. It's not in that sequence, by the way. It's not like 1, 2, 3 is the oldest and 10 is the latest. Those 6, 3, 7, 4, 2, those mandalas has descriptions of grand Saraswati. Naditame, Ambitame, Devitame, Saraswati, the grandest of the grand river. Like Ganga wasn't the grand river then. Yamuna wasn't the grand river, Satluj wasn't the grand river. Or Saraswati is described that time as Giribhya Asamudra. It starts flowing from high mountains and goes all the way to the ocean. And the hundreds of research papers that I'm referring to, they all show, basically follow that timeline. After 22,000 BC, after 15,000 BC, 10,000 BC, there is no evidence of that river meeting the ocean. But before that, there is evidence of the river meeting the ocean. Okay? Alright, let's go next. Now you should ask me for the evidence. Okay? These are my claims. What I just told you in the above line, 70,000, 50,000. It's a padadnya. I just made a statement. You shouldn't blindly accept me, what I'm saying. Okay? The next one here is saying, again, I'm just showing as an arrow, because you know, we are essentially looking at 1,000, 2,000 plus specific data points. Not just from one discipline of science, at least dozen plus disciplines of science. Archaeology, astronomy, genetics, just name it. Okay, so you cannot read it, so I'll read it for you. The first one here is a Mahabharata. That's mostly astronomy evidence. Ramayana, the same thing, but there is more. Rigveda is a hydrological evidence, geological evidence, morphodynamics of rivers evidence. The next one is astronomy. So obviously there is astronomy in almost every Indian text. Ramayana, Mahabharata is full of it. I'll summarize it for you. But Surya Siddhanta, Aryabhatiya, okay, and just because Aryabhatiya, for example, was written, composed, or whatever we have is from 1500 years ago doesn't mean the content of it is from 1500 years ago. Same thing for Surya Siddhanta. The current version of Surya Siddhanta that we have, we can actually astronomically figure it out that the update was made to it in 580 CE. So approximately 1500 years ago. But some of the stuff, and I just presented this a month ago at Oxford, and where I showed that the references in Surya Siddhanta in a very objective scientific fashion take us back to 17,000 years. Not just one, multiple ones. And if I have time, I'll show you. So there's a evidence coming from genetics, astronomy, agriculture, geography, and so on. Let's go to the next one. Okay? Alright. So now we can ask some questions and we'll answer a couple of them. Why Arundhati was walking ahead of Vasishtha during the Mahabharata war? And that is the one archaeoastronomy reference I'm going to show you a demonstration. Okay? The next question we may ask, and this is a storytelling in the afternoon, you know. So for example, the question could be, which star was the North Pole star during the Ramayana times? Anyone knows? How many of you know our current pole star? Okay, one. How many of you know what is pole star? Ah, okay, more hands are going up, okay. Anyone knows the name of our pole star? Polaris, okay, currently it's a Polaris. And we have heard the story of a Dhruva, it doesn't move. Okay, now remember, it's a story, right? So, practically speaking, it doesn't move, meaning it doesn't move for 2000 years or so. 1000, 2000 years is the same pole star. But if you go backwards, the pole star changes. And we'll see why it changes, okay? And the last one, where is the Grand Saraswati? Where is the Grand Saraswati of Rugved? What is the answer? Where is it? Is it there today? No. When did it stop being grand? Yeah, the answer is still there. 22,000 BC. 22,000 BC. Okay, let's go next. Okay, so we have about 70,000 years of history with us. Let's go next. Okay. So this is a quick timeline. Hopefully you can see from the distance. We'll go next. Okay. So now Mahabharata, because that's the closest one, that is a key sheet anchor. You know, that's something we must understand when Mahabharata happened from chronological perspective. Okay, because you know what? The culture, the science, technology, philosophy, everything is tied. Why? Because Mahabharata is so rich, it almost tells you about every aspect of our civilization. So if you understand when that kind of civilization existed, you have got some anchor. And you can go forward and you can go backward. Okay? Go next. So I'm claiming, you can say that I'm claiming it, that it happened in 5561 BC, which is what? Add 2000 years approximately. That gives you 7,500 years. Okay, next. By the way, the map of India with the blue and orange color, the blue area, this is approximation, are the guys from the Pandava side who fought in the war. And the orange one is the one who fought from the Kaurava side. Okay? This is our best understanding of it, based on the geography of that time. And that last one that you see is the Sarpa Satra of Janmeja. That is when Vaishampayan told the Mahabharata. That is what we have. The Mahabharata we have today is the one that Vaishampayan told Janmeja. Okay? And a couple of other recension of it. Alright, this is the same timeline. We are going to look at 5561 BCE. What we do here is, remember the first axis, the axis of evidence. We want to look at all the evidence, not the selective evidence. Okay? So if you look at just the astronomy, purely astronomy from the Mahabharata text, there are close to 300, listen carefully, okay, you did not hear that wrong. There are close to 300 specific astronomy, chronology, seasonal, tithi, they are all astronomy references in the Mahabharata text. There are more than 125,000 verses and there are specific 300 plus evidence text. You split them in the way you need to in a scientific fashion. Okay, go next. And these are just some data points, summary of data points. I'll not go into that here unless we get into question answer. And that's what the Arundhati explanation is and why it happened in 5561 BCE. Go next. Okay, 3 questions there again, story time in the afternoon. Why so many different claims if all researchers are using the same evidence? Now, this is the question I'm sure somebody would have asked me. So I said, instead of you asking me, let me ask you. Isn't that nice? Okay. Why so many different claims? There are more than 130. If all researchers are using the same evidence, what do you think? Selective interpretation, which is what?
4.
No, which means what? All the researchers are not using all the evidence. Okay? Now this is the point lost on everyone, many Indians and non-Indians. You understand? If you don't use all the evidence, you are going to get a different answer. How many of you, again I know it's afternoon, how many of you understand regression or the making a correlation, the dots, and you try to draw a line through it to see if there is a relationship between one variable and another variable. If there are lots of dots, you close your eyes, like have a handkerchief here, and you close your eyes and you draw a line, just like putting a tail to the donkey if you have played that game, What will happen? There is a very good chance that your line may go through few data points. But that's not the relationship. That's what happens when you do that. What evidence of Bhagavad Gita led us to 6th millennium BCE, which means 5561 BCE? How many of you are surprised to hear that? The Bhagavad Gita has evidence, Bhagavad Gita, not the Mahabharata. Bhagavad Gita is part of Mahabharata. But Bhagavad Gita itself has evidence that will take you to 6th millennium BCE. How many of you are surprised? If you're not surprised, then you have to tell me what the evidence is. Which means, okay, surprise, please don't ask me, Okay, I am surprised. You want me surprised? I am surprised. Yeah, very good. The last one, where was the kingdom of Uttara Kuru and how old is it? A kingdom of Uttara Kuru. Anyone knows? The reason I'm asking is because, when we think of India in our times, we have a very different idea of what the India was before. We think, this is India, ours is India, that is Pakistan, that is Afghanistan, that is Iran, that is Myanmar, that is Bangladesh, that is Sri Lanka, that is Thailand, that is Cambodia. Uttara Kuru is the current region just north of Afghanistan, of Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, and so on. That was very much a greater India. Okay? It's not just Indians saying it, because if Indians say it, we don't believe ourselves. When Ptolemy, 2000 years ago, says it, he refers to Uttara Kuru, and he exactly defines the geographical region. And that is, he says, east of Caspian Sea, east and north of Caspian Sea. That is how he describes Uttara Kuru. Okay, the Kuru kingdom, and they participated. Okay, next. So quick insight is that Mahabharata war happened 7,500 years ago. So if you can only remember 3 things, that the grand Saraswati of Rigveda stopped being grand 24,000 years ago. Okay? Ramayana happened 14,000 years ago. I'm going to show you the next slide. And Mahabharata happened 7,500 years ago. I have done my job for today at least. Okay? Let's go to the next one. Now this is Ramayana. The Ram-Ravan Yuddha happened in 12,209 BCE. Next. Same timeline here. Go next. Again, similar evidence. Now in case of Valmiki Ramayana, actually it's much smaller in comparison to Mahabharata. Mahabharata has 125,000 verses. Ramayana has how many? 24,000. That's it. Ramayana has close to 600 specific astronomy, seasonal, chronology, tithis, and all those references. In fact, I wrote this book in 2011. I wrote this in 2014. And so, they all are there at the back of it. In Sanskrit, the specific verses, so you can count them, they're there. And you can see the translation also. Alright, and then this is just a quick evidence there. Go next. That line, again, very hard to see, but it is showing you the pole star of Ramayana times. Valmiki Ramayana says, Brahma Rashir Vishuddhascha, Shuddhascha Paramarshaya, Archishmanta Prakashante, Dhruvam Sarve Pradakshina. It is saying Brahma Rashi is the pole star and Saptarshis are going around it. And when we look at Arundhati, we will see why Brahma Rashi was a pole star in 12,000 BCE. Okay, go next. Alright, story time again. Why so many different claims? if all researchers are using the same evidence, like Mahabharata has up to dozen claims. Okay, this is a round number 2. Why different claims if all are using the same evidence? What is the answer? They are not using the same evidence, that's why they are getting different answers. If they all use the same evidence, it should lead them to the same answer. What evidence of Surya Siddhanta corroborates 13 millennium BCE timing of Ramayana? I'll quickly give you the answer because I mentioned it. Brahma Rashi is the pole star at the time of Ramayana. That's what Valmiki Ramayana says. Surya Siddhanta also tells you that there were 2 pole stars. Chapter 12, Bhugoladhyaya of Surya Siddhanta. Very cryptic book, because it's like a pocket guide for expert astronomer. It's not a book for introduction to astronomy. Okay? So it says there are 2 pole stars. At that time it says the obliquity of the earth was exactly 24 degrees. Right now it is 23.4. It says it was 24 degrees. And it gives some evidence. I'll skip that for now because it will require a lot of discussion. 3 evidences exactly in same places in the Bhugoladhyaya of Surya Siddhanta that takes you to 12,000 BCE and no other date in last 36,000 years. There's only one time that can match these 3. That's 12,000 BC. So Surya Siddhanta is referring to it, Valmiki Ramayana is referring to it. Okay? And what is it? How do we explain the presence of Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, Valmiki? Quickly. We hear about Vishwamitra and Valmiki in Ramayana, yes? Do you know that they are also there in Mahabharata? Okay? If you go before Rama, like the Trishanku, there was also Vishwamitra who tried to put Trishanku in space. So what is happening? Like these are the Dirghayushi people, like living through thousands and thousands of years. Now that's a different story. I mean, we hear about the Rishis and their ability to live through that, but I don't want to go there. We actually have a very clear evidence that, who are they? For example, I don't know if in a small audience if I'll find it, but for example, say Anil Gupta. I'm just picking a name, very common name. Typically, if it's an audience of 1,000, couple of gentlemen will stand up, oh, why are you calling me? I'm saying just like it's a common name, similarly Vishwamitra is a disciplic succession. Vishwamitra's son is also Vishwamitra. Vasishtha's son is also Vishwamitra. We have a Gotra. Most of us have a Gotra, right? My Gotra is a Vasishtha. So in a sense, I'm a Vasishtha. I can call myself Vasishtha. Vasishtha in 21st century. Okay? So these are different individuals. It's not the same individual, Just I wanted to understand that. Let's go next. Next, okay. So, so what I'm going to show you is one illustration of the astronomy with Arundhati, and we'll stop. Okay, so Mahabharata, as I said, you can go and fill this, the whole picture. Mahabharata says that there are 300 specific astronomy observations. One of them is this Arundhati Vasishtha observation. And what is good about this is that in a scientific fashion it shows why Mahabharata war is impossible in last 6,500 years. Okay, let's go. Look at it. Next. Yeah, you can fill that, go to the next page. Okay, that is this observation. Many people wonder, how does astronomy observation in a ancient Indian narrative looks like, epic looks like? Okay, I mean, what do you mean by astronomy observation? This is just one example. If I have time, I'll show you more. How many of you can read that? I know that everyone cannot read Nagari script, but some of you can. Okay, anyone good in Sanskrit wants to read it? Yeah. Go ahead, please, Virendraji.
Yachaisha Vishwata Rajanstraya Loke Sadhu Sammata Arundhati Tya Yesha Vasishtha Prishthataha Kritaha.
Very good. Can you join me in giving him a big hand? Excellent. Yachaisha Vishwata Rajanstraya Loke Sadhu Sammata Arundhati Tya Pesha Vasishtha Prishthata Kritaha. Quickly, what this is, Dhritarashtra telling, Vyasadeva telling Dhritarashtra just one day before the war. He gives many other descriptions, but one description he says is, my dear friend, my dear king, Yachesha Visruta Rajas, Rajas. My dear king, the world famous Vishruta, well known Arundhati, of the Arundhati Vasishtha pair. Arundhati has placed her husband Vasishtha behind, or Arundhati is walking ahead of Vasishtha. Arundhati taya pesha Vasishtha prushtata kruta. She has put her husband on her back, so to say. Just remember that analogy, remember the visualization, put on her back. Can you remember that for next 10 minutes? Okay, alright. Go next. So, well-respected Arundhati has gone ahead of Vasishtha. Next. Now, what is interesting is, remember I told you about those 130 different researchers? Only out of those, only 4 researchers, I underline the word dare. Only 4 researchers even dare mention this observation. Other people simply run away as soon as they see this observation. Okay, and do you know why? Because until 2009, no one could explain it. Not interpreted. No one could show why ever Arundhati would go ahead of Vasishtha. Okay, go next. Now some people, those of you who have read Mahabharata or those of you who have not read Mahabharata, you say, come on, it's too long a book, big thick book, I don't understand Sanskrit and all that standard excuses. And so if the Mahabharata researchers happen to forget this one observation, what's the big deal? The big deal is this, right in that area, there are 4 specific astronomy observations. And all the Mahabharata researchers who refer to astronomy evidence, they mention the other 3, but not this one. You can't just simply miss it, okay? Let's go ahead. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so now I just need your 10 minutes of best attention that you can muster, okay? Nap time is over. No, nobody slept, so I like that. Thank you very much, okay? But just 10 minutes of best time. If it doesn't happen, don't lose heart, okay? You know the story of, who's that guy? Archimedes? Eureka, right? One day you are just shopping in the mall and suddenly it will happen to you. I understood why Arundhati walked ahead of Vasishtha. Okay? Alright. What you are seeing here is this. I don't know if you can see the picture. Like you see there's something at the center there and there are circles going around, concentric circles. Everyone sees that? Okay. Do you know what it is? It is a picture with a long exposure camera taken at night facing the north direction. So what you see, that center point there, as if a center of a circle in that left hand top corner, is the point of our Polaris. The Polaris is there and the tracks of all the stars through the 24 hours are captured on the camera. Okay? This is a composite image. You can't do it in a one night. What it shows is that all the stars seems to be going around the pole star. Okay? It's very important that you understand this. Go next. Next. Okay. So just so that you understand the direction, I have put the wall clock against it. Do you find anything interesting about that wall clock? Anti-clockwise. Because when I use the word anti-clockwise, people, and then I show the picture and says, who is going ahead? They give the wrong answer. So I said, okay, let's see if this works. I'm experimenting with you guys. This is the first time I put the clock. Okay? So all the stars around the pole stars are going like this. Okay? 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like that. Not the one that we see typically. Okay? Go next. Next. Okay. Yeah, you can go and complete that circle there. Okay. So what happens is this. Right now, our Earth's axis is pointing somewhere in the sky. And where the Earth's axis points, there is a bright star next to it. We call it Polaris. And therefore it is a pole star. But the Earth's axis has its own moment. It's called the precession of the Earth's axis. And it goes like this and completes a one circle in 26,000 years. I'm not referring to the Earth going around the Sun. I'm not referring to the Earth going around itself. I'm referring to the Earth's axis. It goes like this and completes a circle in 26,000 years. Now this is an agama. You understand what I mean by that? This is not something you says, come on, but I don't agree with it. No, I'm not looking for your opinion. It's astronomically established that that is the case. You understand? Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. I told you, go next, couple next. It takes 26,000 years. So now he already gave you the answer there. But I was going to ask you, suppose if the Earth's axis goes through halfway through the circle, okay? How many thousand years we have to go back? About 13,000 years, half of 26,000. Yeah, you can complete that slide. Okay. And then now the Earth's axis would be pointing not at Polaris, but it will be pointing at another bright star called Brahma Rashi, Vega, if you are into modern astronomy, V-E-G-A, Vega. By the way, it also comes from Sanskrit, but that's another long talk. Vaka, okay, that's how it comes. And so Brahma Rashi or Abhijit, that's another name. Alright, so if you go back, say 13,000 years ago, around 11,000, 12,000 BC, Earth's axis was pointing towards Brahma Rashi. Brahma Rashi was our pole star. Okay, go next. So because of that, what happens is, as the Earth's axis goes like this, who is a pole star changes. Can you follow that? Okay, so if you go backwards, okay, 21,000, now go that way, Kocha, then Tuban in 3000 BC. All the way down to 12,000 Brahma Rashi. If you go back further, 16,000 BC, another star, they knew that would have been a pole star. Just remember this circle. You follow what I'm doing? Just where the Earth's axis is. Okay, go next. So I'm just going to use that circle. Yeah, keep that until the circle comes. So that is the same circle. Okay, Polaris is there. Brahma Rashi is at the bottom. The Vega. Everyone follows what I'm doing? Same circle. And now I'm showing you the relative positions of Arundhati and Vasishta. What we in a Hindu astronomy call Arundhati and Vasishta, in Western astronomy they are Alcor and Misa, the two stars of the panhandle, the Saptarshi. Okay? Alright, go next. So what I'm showing is a relative position, where Vasishta is, where Arundhati is. I have deliberately exaggerated the distance between them so that you can see it. Okay? But I have not changed their relative position with respect to the pole stars. Alright, so go and complete this page. Alright, so what I did is I drew a line, a straight line that goes through Vasishta and Arundhati, and that cuts that circle of the precession of the Earth's axis. What that did, it created three scenarios. Now you have to take something on a leap of faith with me for a few minutes. Like have you all seen the Indiana Jones movie? Yeah, so they open the book and the bridge comes, you have to trust it, you know, the bridge will appear. Okay? So Arundhati Vasishta, it split it into three scenarios. One scenario is, go ahead and finish that three line, 1, 2, 3. A, C, B. So think of A, the part of the circle, C and B. Anytime the Earth axis is pointing there, we will see Vasishta walking ahead of Arundhati. Just take with me for a minute, few minutes, I'm going to show you. If the point of Earth's axis is pointing at A or B, we will see from the Earth Arundhati and Vasishta walking together. No one ahead, no one behind. And if the Earth's axis is pointing to AXB, then during that time, approximately period of 6,500 years, you will see Arundhati walk ahead of Vasishta. We'll see why. Okay, go next. Okay, so same thing. This is our today's scenario, 21st century. Polaris is our pole star, and all the stars will go around Polaris. Everyone follows? So Arundhati, Vasishta, they will go around Polaris. Vega, Abhijit also goes around Polaris. You can go and confirm that at night. That's what you'll see. All the stars are going around Polaris. Click next one. But as we go backwards, yeah, just go slow. It will start. You know? No, go back and start again. Just give a one tap and yeah, just one and wait. You know, it takes time before it starts. As we go backwards, the point of pole star is going to start moving. Just give one. Yeah, okay, it will do it now. Okay, so it's not, the simulation is not working here, that's fine. What it will show you is something like this. So if you go back all the way to 11,091 BCE, that last one, the one circle below, is how it will appear. That point is fixed, and all the stars, including Polaris, are going around that pole star. Okay, go next one. Okay, so three scenarios. Number one, which is what we see today. That is our Polaris. Yeah, you can complete this page. That's our Polaris. And just to help you, I'm going to draw the arms from the center to the Vasishta and Arundhati. Go next, next. Okay. Just stop here. So everyone understands the direction? How they go anti-clockwise? Vasishta is where it is shown. Arundhati is there. Okay. Now the clock arms are not moving. The whole thing is going to go around it. Who do you think will walk ahead? Who do you think will walk behind? Vasishta will walk ahead or Arundhati will walk ahead? Vasishtha. Everyone sees that. Vasishtha is going to go, Arundhati is going to follow. Go next. Next. And same thing, others will go. Keep on going next. Yeah. And here, this is astronomy simulation. I don't know if you can see from the back. The vertical line, imagine that to be 12 o'clock. And it's going this way. If you see that bright star Vasishtha has already crossed 12 o'clock and Arundhati has yet to cross the 12 o'clock line. So Vasishtha is ahead, Arundhati is behind. That is the scenario today. That was the scenario 2000 years ago, 4000 years ago, 6000 years ago, and so on. Okay, let's go next one. Now we will look at Vasishtha and Arundhati together. Something happened in 4508 BCE. Yeah, keep on going, you can fill this whole thing. So that's 4508 BCE, that is where Earth's axis was pointing, and everyone is going around that point. Now look what happened. Because that point also falls on the same line as Arundhati Vasishtha. You look at draw a line from A to Arundhati, from A to Vasishtha. They are against each other, they are overlapping. So now if you try to go around, no one is ahead, no one is behind. Let's go next and see the simulation here. Keep on going into the simulation. Yeah, there. Okay, so this is astronomy simulation using Voyager 4.5. This is a NASA data, astronomy data. You can do it yourself. You can pick any astronomy software and do it. That is what I mean by objective testing. Okay, if somebody thinks this is blue, the other person should also be able to say it is blue. Okay, all right. So everyone understands that in 4500 BC, Arundhati Vasishtha are together. No one ahead, no one behind. Okay. Now remember what Vyasa was saying to Dhritarashtra a day before the Mahabharata war. What is he saying? Arundhati is walking ahead of Vasishtha. Okay, let's go to the next one. And I'm going to directly jump to 5561 BCE and show you that scenario. So look what is happening there. If I draw a line from point X to Arundhati and Vasishtha, do you see something? Arundhati is going to look slightly ahead of Vasishtha. Let's look at the simulation. Next, yeah. Again the 12 o'clock in your clock. We are going anti-clockwise. Arundhati has already crossed that 12 o'clock line. Think of the 400 meters run. Arundhati has already crossed. Vasishtha has yet to cross the line. This was the scenario obviously in 5561 BCE, but this was the scenario for any year between 4508 BCE and all the way going back 6500 years to 11091 BCE. Okay? In between these 6500 years, Arundhati was always walking ahead of Vasishtha. So Mahabharata war could have happened any time between those 6500 years. Okay? But you don't stop with one evidence. You go to the other, and if you keep on going more, all 300 is going to, every time it's going to point you to 5561, 5561, 5561, until either you memorize it or you get tired. Okay? Alright, next. Quickly you can finish this whole thing, including the simulation. This is the scenario similar to 4508 BCE for 11091 BCE. So as you went backwards, again the time came when Arundhati and Vasishtha were walking together. And if you go beyond this, now we are going backward. If you go beyond 11,091 BC, again Vasishtha was ahead. And that Vasishtha was always ahead, no matter even if you go by another 100,000 years and 200,000 years and 300,000 years. That's how it works in astronomy. So as far as the past is concerned, there was only one time interval of 6,500 years from 11,091 BC to 4508 BC. Where Arundhati was walking ahead of Vasishtha. Go next. And in Mahabharata, Vyasa is telling Dhritarashtra that Arundhati is walking ahead of Vasishtha. Okay, as a one nimitta, as a sign. So Mahabharata happened sometime. See, this is how we triangulate. So there was this Shabda Praman, Arundhati walking ahead of Vasishtha. Using the background knowledge of modern astronomy, we showed the Pratyaksha that yes, actually it did walk ahead of Vasishtha, and it happened to be before 6,500 years ago and up to 11,091 BCE. And what is the inference? Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, the Anumana here, Shabda Pramana. The inference is that Mahabharata war happened sometime between those times. Go next. Now this is, we talk about Shabda Praman, Atma Praman, right? And all this, the Shastra Praman is in the text. So this is, Arundhati Vasishtha is what? Shastra Praman, Epic Praman, Shabda Praman. Vyasa's words. Okay, we are not saying Vyasa is saying something wrong, but we have to figure out why Vyasa is saying it. So we have to go through this. It took, you know, when I read this observation in 1995, I was doing masters in Canada. You know, in chemical, my background is chemical engineering, by the way, so I was doing my masters there. I happened to run into this, and I thought, I know Arundhati, Alcor Meeser, that should be easy. I thought I'll figure this out over the weekend. No, this is 1995. It took me 15 years. 2009, you know, it was 2009 when I finally figured this out. Okay, go next. So in this case, a beautiful demonstration of Shabda Praman matching with the Pratyaksha Praman. Everyone follows? In a scientific fashion. Go next. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. We'll get into question answers, but anyone more interested, you know, this is USA editions. They are in Kindle and paperback, and I showed you here too. There is a third book that I brought it out December 23rd. Okay. Now you know why December 23rd? Winter solstice. Day after winter solstice. That's when Bhishma passed away. Of course, many thousand years ago. You know, 7,900, whatever the number comes to, 55, 60 plus 2018. And then you know, because these are published through Amazon, they cost a lot. They are printed in USA. So now I had someone, a non-profit organization in India. So we just tied up and basically, you know, they are made it available in India for what, 300 rupees or something like this, shipped home. You can just to go through WhatsApp and whatnot. It's a one man operating the thing. In fact, he published it. This amazing guy, Ritvik Subramanya out of Bangalore. Okay, and before that, he published the Indian edition. The first day, he shipped 108 copies. Okay, and then in 10 days, now I don't always get a time to talk to him, but in the 10 days, he pinged me back and he said he shipped 300. Okay, and so he's working on it. Go next. I think that should be the last slide. All right, so time for questions, and I would love to respond to any objections. Thank you again. Namaskar. How are we going to do with the question answer? Like, do we want, because I want to hear the question, I want everyone else to hear, listen to the question. Yeah, please, those of you who have questions, please come in the front.